So, I just saw Wicked, or more accurately, I should say, Wicked Part 1, because yes, something a few people didn't really realize is that this movie is in fact a two-parter. This is only the first act of the original stage musical, and it doesn't say it in like the previews of the trailer or anything, but it does say it in the actual movie. Like when the title appears, it says Wicked Part 1. Honestly, kind of like what Dune did, which is kind of funny, but anyway, yeah. I feel like I should start this by saying I have not seen the original Wicked stage play. I didn't really know that much about it. I vaguely knew a little bit about the plot, and like I heard bits and pieces of a couple of the songs, but aside from that, I had never seen it before. I also had not read the book. However, I am a very big fan of the original Wizard of Oz story, both the original book and the classic movie from 1939. I really love both of those, so I was definitely interested to see what was gonna happen here. As I've heard very good things about the stage musical, I'm pretty sure this movie's been in development for a while, so I was very curious to see what was gonna happen, and short answer, I thought it was really, really good. I very much enjoyed this film. Movie musicals, especially in more recent years, have definitely been a very mixed bag. You've had a couple of good ones, but for the most part, they have been a very hit or miss. Some of them have had some good elements, but yeah, also had some that don't work as a whole, and some that were just complete disasters and dumpster fires. Cats. So yeah, I was definitely curious to see what was going to happen with this, but I was very intrigued, especially when they announced that it was going to be split in two parts, because the most common complaint I see with movie musicals is that they're too long, so splitting this one in two I thought was a pretty solid idea, you know? Especially since stage musicals typically have intermissions and stuff, whereas films don't. I know they used to, but not anymore. So I thought it was an interesting idea, and I think it works pretty well, but I'll get a bit more into that later. For the few of you that don't know the story, basically it is a prequel to the original Wizard of Oz. It's basically detailing the life of the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba as she's known in this, along with her sister Nessa, I believe is her name. I don't fully remember, but either way, who later becomes the Wicked Witch of the East, and primarily Elphaba's relationship with Glinda, or Galinda as she's originally known as, who later becomes the Good Witch of the, well, North in the movie, but South in the book. Yeah, I've always found that very interesting, but basically Elphaba was chastised because she was originally born via her mother having an affair, which not that many people know about, at least in the context of the story, but for whatever reason, I don't think it's fully explained, but it's at least partially hinted, like it's because of some drink that she had, but either way, she comes out with green skin, and so her whole life she's like ostracized and stuff, but she also appears to have magic, as when she gets like really angry about something, things around her start to like float. So, yeah, naturally, she was an outcast her life, but then she begins to attend a school, or more accurately, her sister goes to attend the school, and then after witnessing her power, the headmistress of the school decides to take her in and offer her sorcery class, and she winds up rooming with Galinda, who's not too thrilled about it at first, but after helping her, like, charm her way in with the headmistress and take her sorcery class, she eventually starts to warm up to her, and eventually they go to the Emerald City, where they meet, of course, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, and again, if you know the stage play, you probably know what happens. Even then, if you know the prequel, you know what happens. But basically, this is definitely one of the earliest attempts of showing a pre-existing story, but from a different character's perspective, i.e. the Wicked Witch of the West, a character that was really just a one-dimensional villain in the movie, who is more meant to like represent Dorothy Spears or whatever, and in the original book had basically no character whatsoever. She was very much just an antagonist, and that was it. But here, they definitely try to humanize her, and at least, again, I haven't seen the stage play or the original book, as in the Wicked book, but in the context of the movie, at least, they do a very good job. Elphaba is genuinely a very interesting character. You can see how she does actually want to be accepted. You can see how she is very much an outcast and stuff, but even then, she still tries her best to work hard and hopefully prove everyone wrong, and I think it works really well. Both the actresses playing Elphaba and Galinda do a fantastic job. Cynthia Erivo, I have not seen in anything, but either way, she does a really solid job playing Elphaba in here, and her singing is phenomenal, and I was definitely a little curious about Ariana Grande, because, yeah, she's definitely more known as a singer now than as an actor, but that is how she got her start, and once again, she does a fantastic job. I think Glinda really does have a good arc in this movie, you know? She starts out as the stereotypical or egotistical, prim, proper, popular girl, but she really does grow to care more about Elphaba as the film goes on. Like I said, at first, she doesn't really want much to do with her, she's not happy to be rooming with her, but after she helps her get into the sorcery class and stuff, she really does start to care for her, and you really do see their friendship grow and develop over the course of the film, which I really like. I think easily the strongest aspect of the movie is the musical numbers. I mean, that seems to be the one thing a lot of musicals don't really tend to get right, but they are all fantastic in this movie because, Jesus Christ, it is so nice finally seeing a movie musical where basically everyone can actually freaking sing. Like, this ain't Gerard Butler in Phantom of the Opera or Russell Crowe in Les Miserables. Like, these people can actually sing, and they all do a phenomenal job. Again, especially the two leads, but a lot of the side casts do. Like, eventually this prince from, I believe, the land of the Winkies, which is the people in the West, comes in. He winds up falling in love with Elphaba, but Glinda also falls in love with him. He has some really great songs, too. There's this Munchin guy named Bach, played by the guy who played SpongeBob in the Broadway musical, which I find very funny, and he does a pretty solid job, too. He's a very interesting character. Yeah, the song numbers in this movie are all fantastic, especially the last one, Defying Gravity, which is like the most iconic song in the musical. I genuinely got chills during that, and Jesus Christ, I'm still humming some of those damn songs. Like, Popular is annoyingly catchy, and it certainly doesn't help that those things have been all over my Instagram for, like, pretty much a couple of days at this point. I think the production design of this movie is also crazy impressive. Like, these are some fantastic sets that they built for this. The one thing I will say is they're definitely a little muted. Like, the original Wizard of Oz is one of the most famously colorful movies ever made, and this one, they definitely toned the saturation quite back, which isn't awful. Like, it doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but it definitely is noticeable. Either way, the movie still looks great as a whole, and the cinematography in some shots is really impressive too. The score is, once again, fantastic. I know it's not completely original, it's pretty much ripped from the Broadway musical, but either way, it is fantastic, and really adds to the musical numbers as well. And also, apparently I heard that the actors actually do sing live on set, which is weird. Like, you know, most movie musicals, or at least good ones, like, pre-record it and then just kind of dub it over, but this one, apparently they sing live on set, which is weird because it does not sound like it, because they all sound fantastic. Like, once again, it is really good. But I think one of the weirdest things about this movie is the pacing. Specifically, like I said, they split the movie in two parts, but that doesn't mean this movie is short. It is literally 2 hours and 40 minutes long, which, if I'm not mistaken, is almost as long, if not longer, than the original stage adaptation, which is weird, because, like, it doesn't really feel padded for the most part. There are a few things in the middle where it felt like they were dragging some stuff out, but either way, most of the things do flow naturally together, and I think I can explain why. Because they decided to split it in two parts, they figured, well, now we have extra time, so let's flesh it out a bit more. Let's expand more on the characters. Let's give more weight to the situations. Let's take our time and feed naturally into the musical numbers. And again, for the most part, I think they did a really good job, but again, there were a handful of parts in the middle where I was like, okay, I think we can move this along a bit faster, or maybe you could have trimmed that down a little bit. Either way, that's probably my biggest issue with the movie. There also are a few plot points that feel a little underdeveloped. Like, one of the main things, I guess, yeah, again, mild spoilers, one of the main reasons for Elphaba, I guess, kind of rebelling against the wizard and stuff is the fact that they're apparently, like, trying to chastise animals in Oz, because, yeah, if you're unaware, there are sentient animals in Oz. Like, one of the professors at the Academy is a goat, voiced by Peter Dinklage, randomly, and we later find out that this is actually because the Wizard of Oz, played by Jeff Goldblum, which I just want to say is hilarious casting, like, that is great, but yeah, apparently it's because Oz was thrown into chaos when he arrived, and he decided to unite the people against a common enemy, and Elphaba's main reason for, like, wanting to rebel against him and everyone else is because she wants to, like, save the animals and stuff, and so they make her more out to be an enemy. I do think this is an interesting idea, and I believe it was in the original story, but again, it's not really expanded too much, at least throughout the majority of the film. It really only comes into play, there's a couple of scenes sprinkled throughout, and then it really comes into play during the last third. So, like I said, I feel like there were some things you could have tweaked a little bit more. Like, it works, it's fine enough, but I feel like it could have been fleshed out a little bit. Again, overall, I think this is a very solid movie. I wouldn't say it's one of my all-time favorites, but it is definitely a very good watch. If you're interested, I say definitely check it out. I mean, it is cleaning up at the box office, and it's getting all sorts of great reviews. I would not be surprised if this gets a bunch of Oscar nominations, because people are just going nuts for this movie, and I'm really curious to see what they're going to do for the second part, because most of the love I see for Wicked tends to come from Act 1. I don't really know what they're going to do with Act 2. Again, I don't know too much about it. But apparently, from what I've heard, there's a lot more issues and stuff with Act 2. But again, since they're, you know, splitting the movie in two, and they're definitely fleshing it out a bit more, I'm hoping they'll at least partially work that out, because I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm curious to see where it goes next. I don't know if I'd say this is one of my top movies of the year, but I at the very least put in the upper half of the movies I've seen. This is a very solid film. Definitely give it a watch. It's very well made and enjoyable. I give Wicked a solid 8 out of 10.